Well, he wanted a housewife to show up. A housewife showed up. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How y'all doing? All right, let's get into season 4, episode 6 of The Traitors. So last week we left off on the cliffhanger and we didn't know whether there was going to be an actual murder because we didn't know whether anyone took a shield. And we find out that no one took a shield, so there would be no murder tonight. This week's mission involved them going to that creepy ass cabin where nothing but bad things happen. And so, on this version of it, they all start out in the house, but then they get clues about a certain, not tombstone, but headstone with the name on it that they had to go find within 30 seconds. And I would have been just like Candace, and I would have been like, let me out first because the stuff, there was like critters. I feel like I can deal with everything except for those like insects and stuff like that. Everything else, clowns, blood, because I know none of that is real. I think those insects are real, and I couldn't handle that part. Absolutely not. So they were able to bank some money for that mission. But I want to get back to the castle and talk about Colton trying to make a deal with Renna. First of all, Renna was doing such a bad job at acting when Colton was like propositioning her, right? And I'm like, this looks very guilty. But it's coming from us in the lenses that we know who the traitors are. So of course we're gonna say she looks guilty. But I feel like even if I didn't know she was a traitor, it just looks mad suspicious. But he was like, okay, you take care of me and in the trader's place, and then I'll basically protect you at the round table. And I'm like, y'all can't work together. Trader and faithful can't work together because you can't win together. And Boston Rob made the same point. I was listening to the Traitors official podcast with him and Bob the drag queen, and I'm like, yeah, this it was just dumb, but yeah. Then we see them trying to make an 8-person alliance, and I'm like, this wasn't very smart to me either because you have to know who is whom in order for this to work, because the point of the game is for all the faithfuls to make it to the end and no traitors be left. So in that 8-person alliance, you would have to know for sure that everyone is a faithful, and there's no way of you knowing that. So it's just like, what? So we get to the round table, and basically, no one wants to start talking. Ron basically was like, come on, he had his little chalk in his hand. Ron was ready to go home. Them people was getting on his last nerve, okay? But he's basically going out saying his goodbyes and just like, send me home. So it ended up being who Lisa, Ron, and Colton being the people who the votes were split between those 3 people, and we saw that Ron ended up going home. I don't think Lisa's gonna last too long, especially after what's coming up next week. Next week, where they have to put on this brooch. It's basically a murder in plain sight, and they have a banquet that they're going to that night, and the traitor had to wear a brooch. Now I was like, this is obvious that only Lisa or Candace will be able to wear this, because if Rob wore it, it would be so obvious, right? So I feel like this is a setup for Lisa. I don't know how she's gonna do it if she pulls it off, but I feel like that cannot go unnoticed because it's the first person that touches the brooch that is going to be murdered. So I'm interested to see how or if she pulls this off. But either way, Lisa, I believe, is going to be the first traitor that is banished. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on episode 6 of The Traitors, and I'll talk with you guys in the next one. Peace.